So today for the 100th episode, we are going to do a little look back at our 5 most popular episodes over the past almost 2 years to really look at the topics that meant the most to you. Hi friends, welcome back. So today is our 100th episode. And it's so crazy to me to think that this is the 100th episode that we have put together for Developing Potential with Diana Kulian. Thank you so much for being a viewer and for contributing and being part of this journey. So for today's episode, we are going to do a little look back at our 5 most popular episodes over the past almost 2 years to really look at the topics that meant the most to you. So the first clip is coming from an episode entitled Things That the Narcissist Doesn't Want You to Know. And so we really found that this topic of dealing with the narcissist was very popular over the last year. So we dedicated several episodes to really identifying the behavior of narcissism and really helping you come up with some strategies and some tips to handle this person without losing your mind.
What is it that they don't want you to know? So the first big secret that the narcissist in your life is hiding is that they are deeply insecure. And this is, again, there's so many what feels like contradictions with narcissism because they're coming across as so confident and so arrogant and they're just so much better than everyone. They're so much better than you. And yet, really behind the veil, there's this deep-seated insecurity. So really, a narcissist is a walking, talking house of cards. And it really kind of gives you an idea of how deep their insecurity must be for this defense, this big wall that they create around themselves of importance and of, just demanding your attention. It shows you how deep their insecurity really is. And really, I think most true narcissists really don't feel love for themselves. And so we know the importance of being able to love ourselves and being able to nurture ourselves and see value in ourselves. This is like a fundamental need that we have as humans. And so this is where those of us who are not suffering with narcissistic personality disorder can start to feel some empathy. It's tough, I know, because of all of the atrocious things that they've done to you and said to you. But to imagine what it feels like to have such a deep insecurity and to not feel any sense of self-worth. So essentially, the overconfidence of a narcissist is really a big act. They don't want you to know it, but now you know it. There's this deep insecurity at their core. And here's a final secret about narcissists. They don't realize that they are a narcissist. And so again, big contradictions, right? Which is why we get so triggered and so fired up. But they have these huge ego blinders up. And one of their biggest ego defense mechanisms is projection, right? And this kind of goes into why they're always the victim, even though they're the ones that's always starting things, right? But they have such inner blinders to shield themselves from really some deep-seated pain that they're not able to see and really understand how they show up. And so when you are, experiencing these frustrations with them, and when they're not showing you empathy, and when they're playing the victim, and when, they have ridiculous demands, and when they have, just their explosive rage or ups and downs emotionally, and it can be just mind-boggling when there's no self-awareness, right? They're not able to look in the mirror and to really take stock in how they're showing up with others. And if you look at narcissists, most of them have a pattern of really burning bridges, not being able to sustain really intimate, close relationships over time, right? And so that's a big sign, it would be a big red flag to someone if they're unable to really maintain close relationships that have, happiness and harmony in them. But yeah, for the narcissist, there are such blinders in place that they aren't able to clearly see what you see. It can be so frustrating when the narcissist in your life thinks that all of their problems are outside of them, right? Everything bad is coming from everyone else, and they're not the source of anything. And so they have these ego blinders in place so firmly that most of them will not seek treatment because there's no awareness that there's any responsibility or that there's anything for them to work on. And most of us, if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it be a family member, a parent, a friend, a romantic partner, those of us who don't have, a pattern of narcissism and we're able to feel empathy and we're able to self-evaluate, oftentimes before we understand what narcissism is, we feel like we're the problem. And if this is something you've experienced, maybe the other person, the healthier person, is most often the one to end up going to seek therapy. And so you show up in therapy and you talk about the relationship, and then you learn like, oh, I'm dealing with a narcissist, and it completely shifts your paradigm. But if you're able to, take some accountability, if you're able to really open yourself up for feedback, right? Going to therapy or going for some kind of treatment is opening yourself to feedback and saying, I don't have all the answers. Maybe I'm doing something that's causing these conflicts in my life or conflict with this one person in my life. But if you are the narcissist, that's a very rare thing for a narcissist to be able to say, hey, I'm open to feedback. I want to go to treatment. I want to work on this, right? It requires this self-awareness. It requires some level of empathy for the other person. And it opens up to the possibility of like, I could change my behavior. Like maybe I could make things better, right? And so an actual, narcissist is not going to be open to that. They will not go and seek treatment. They will not be open to the idea that they are the source of the problem.
So what happens when you stop drinking alcohol? This was a popular episode, and you can watch it in this clip.
I saw this quote online from a doctor, and they said, your entire body and soul improves when you go off of alcohol. So these are kind of like the well-known benefits, like the carrot, if you will, that we're chasing when we're like, okay, I'm finally at a point where I'm going to stop drinking and I'm going to get all these benefits. But what I want to talk to you about today is what they don't tell you, but I think is really one of the big reasons why most people don't make that leap and don't cross over from a life of drinking to a happy, joyful life of sobriety. And that is that you have to now cope with your feelings and your emotions. Now, I want you to think about that because this might be one of those things that you haven't really thought about. I know I didn't, which on the one hand, I knew that I would use alcohol, especially in 2020. I know most of the world used alcohol in 2020 to deal with stress. I noticed this so much in movies and TV shows. Now that I don't drink, I really notice all the references to alcohol as like a solution. So the character has a bad day and it's like, oh, let me get you a drink, right? Or someone gets fired or someone's broken up with, and it's like the solution is alcohol. And that can be so true in real life. So 2020 for us, running a fitness franchise where, hundreds of fitness locations were, looking to us for solutions when they're being told, close your doors, you can't operate business, and that's their livelihood, right? The stress of that really, for me, alcohol was one of my solutions to not have to feel the stress at the end of the day. And so what do you do when you're no longer drinking alcohol? And it doesn't have to be just the feelings of overwhelming stress from work or from your life, your relationships. It can be something as small as like social anxiety, right? The prospect of going to a holiday party and having to feel your social anxiety or having to feel whatever uncomfortable feelings you might be having in the social setting. Or maybe it's like a family dinner, like a Thanksgiving or something where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to be around these people. I'm going to drink. When you don't have that option, you're left with these feelings that have been avoided. And really, these feelings that you've numbed yourself against, right? We've all done this before, where alcohol is going to make me not feel. It's going to make me not think about the issues and the problems that are giving me these emotions. And then we wake up the next day, physically we're not feeling well, and those emotions are still there, right? They've just been kind of shoved to the side. So it leads us to the question, how do we sit with uncomfortable emotions? And that's what I want to really go into. Because when you do choose, and maybe you even just try it for a night, maybe try it for Thanksgiving or try it for a holiday party where you're like, hey, I'm not going to use alcohol this time. I'm going to be present with what's happening. So these are some tools for you that I've really used over the last 10 months to cope and to realize that we never needed alcohol in the first place. You really have everything you need to cope with everything that's in front of you, to cope with the thoughts that come up that are easier to push away, but you can cope with them, and the uncomfortable emotions, right? And it's such a human, instinctive response to want to just not feel the emotions or not think the thoughts. But it's such an act of courage, and it helps you so much in life in general when we get this skill and when we grow this skill of being able to sit with uncomfortable emotions and knowing how to handle distressing thoughts.
This next episode was the 7 warning signs of gaslighting and emotional manipulation. This is a really big topic. We're dealing with difficult people in our life, at work, in our personal life. And so how do we know if we're being gaslit, right? Are we crazy or are they crazy? So watch this clip.
Gaslighting is to manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or power of reasoning. So essentially, when you're gaslighting someone, you're trying to make them feel like they're crazy. So you're trying to get them to really question their own reality and just feel overwhelmed and actually like they're crazy. So if somebody in your life is kind of intentionally distorting reality in order to get you to question yourself, and to question your reality, like your version of reality, this is how I remember it, but they're telling me that it happened this way. And so now you have this internal, struggle between what you remember, what your experience is, and then what this person is telling you happened. And so these are in conflict. And so ultimately, it's like, do I believe myself and my experience, my memory, or do I just go along with this strong personality who's being very intent on wanting me to believe their version, right? And then finding that this kind of situation happens over and over and over with this person. This person tries to make you feel unstable, irrational, not credible, and essentially crazy. So somebody who's gaslighting you is really going to be telling you like, hey, you're unreasonable, you're irrational, you're not thinking clearly, really trying to get you to question your own grasp on reality. And so the term gaslighting actually came from a movie that was based on a play. So in the film, there's a husband who's trying to get his wife to really question what she's experiencing. So one of the things is the house was lit with these gas lights, and he would dim them and make them turn on and off and flicker, but tell her that nothing was happening. And so she essentially believed she was going insane because it's like, wait, the lights were flickering. And he's like, no, they weren't. And so it's this process of getting her to just doubt her own reality, doubt her own eyes, take on this idea that, okay, I'm crazy, you must be right. And then everything, then just the gaslighter is basically in charge of everything because they can rewrite history, they can get you to question yourself. And so now they have this ultimate power. So it's a really, really abusive situation when someone is gaslighting you and really chipping away at your self-esteem and at your grasp on reality, right? It's a very detrimental place to be, which is why we talk about it and why we want to really make sure that we can be evaluating our relationships, that we can be in relationships that are healthy and where, we're showing up as our genuine selves there for a give and take in a relationship in a healthy way, and that we're choosing to have people in our life who are also able to show up as their genuine selves and to participate in a give and take and in a supportive relationship, right? That is the goal. That is what we all deserve. And especially for someone like yourself who is working on yourself and you're concerned with your self-development and you want to learn how to become healthier and more present and fulfilled in your life, we really need to be careful of the people we let into our life, because having, someone who gaslights, having someone with toxic behaviors, having narcissistic people in our lives can drain so much out of us, like our life force, our energy, our ability to stay on this path to discovering our higher selves, to regulating our nervous system, to doing fulfilling work. There's so much that we have that gets taken from us when we get caught up with people who don't have our best interests at heart, right? They're there to take, they're there to use. This next clip is from the episode, How to Stop Struggling with Weight Loss. This is a big topic and something that really a lot of us have struggled with over the years. And I've really been teaching a lot about fasting and about, really eating for your insulin and being aware of, increasing your insulin sensitivity, not only for health, but also to really help maintain a healthy weight. So check out this clip. When you look at where we are as a society, we're doing things wrong. And then this kind of goes back to my anger of like, okay, this information has been out there. And then when you start going down this rabbit hole of like, okay, well, what other books has Dr. Fung written? And then, Amazon will recommend all these other things. It's like, wow, there's so much information out there about how intermittent fasting is really the key. Well, he says it right here. It's the key to controlling your weight. And what he doesn't say in this little subtitle, but what I've been experiencing is that it's the key to freedom. It's the key to freedom from the struggle of eating and weight gain and feeling like you're against your own body. Your body's against you. Your appetite's against you. It's finding this harmony. And it, if you look back again, so going back to my grandma who never went to the gym, never put on tennis shoes to go jogging like I've done for years and years. And she was slim her whole life. But look at her eating habits. She didn't drink diet sodas. She didn't drink regular sodas. She didn't drink flavored coffees or teas throughout the day. She had 3 square meals, and in between her meals, there was nothing. She wasn't eating anything. Maybe she would drink some water. And that's just the way people lived. They ate, and then they took a break from eating, and then they ate, right? It's the way it was. And then you look today, and there's so much advertising. There's so much foods. We're told, like, snack to keep your metabolism up, right? Like, drink 0-calorie, artificially sweetened beverages, and you're fine because it doesn't impact your blood sugar. Well, it impacts your insulin, right? And so, this feeling of, like, why didn't anybody tell us? Why doesn't somebody, like, make big headlines? Like, hey, everybody, like, it's not calories, it's insulin. And if you think about it, it's because nobody makes money when you don't eat. Nobody makes money. And when I just look at my own eating habits and how much they've changed over the last few months, I mean, for one, I would always carry a little thing of stevia with me because, of course, I wasn't going to be putting sugar and stuff. And I would sweeten everything. And I would feel good about myself. Like, look, I'm not drinking sugar. Not realizing that the sweetness on my palate was releasing insulin in my body, and that insulin is putting me into fat storage mode, and it was keeping me stuck in the cycle. I stopped buying the stevia. There's so many things I stopped buying. You think about it, 20 hours a day, all I'm drinking is water, and water from the tap is free, right? No one's making money off me. And so sadly, this is why the answer to the struggle is just, it doesn't get out there.
All right, last clip of the day, and this comes from the episode, How Do I Find My Purpose? This is a show about self-development, and so that's what we're here working on. And having a really strong purpose is such a vital part of developing into this next version of ourselves. So check it out in this clip.
How do you get everything you want out of life? And we decided it's create a long-term vision in the theater of your mind and set short-term goals to get you there. And so purpose is the engine that pushes you through each of those goals that ultimately gets you into that long-term vision. And then even as you're accomplishing it, the long-term vision resets. As you achieve it, it's almost like there's a bend in the road. And so you're where you thought you wanted to be, but then you realize, oh shoot, this journey's not over. Now I can see around the corner. Now I can see what the long-term vision looks like in the next 5 years. But the driving force is purpose. It's purpose. It's this will to adventure and this will to growth. So it's similar to in fitness, we have a goal weight. And I have come to hate the goal weight because it's a useless concept. If you diet and exercise and achieve a specific number on the scale, but then you go back to your previous lifestyle, you go back to eating whatever you want, and you go back to not doing your workouts, the goal weight goes away. It's not about a goal weight. Just like, in my opinion, it's not about a purpose, a label. Right? It's not about being in this specific state. It's about the motion of getting there. And the there has to change. And so depending on where you are in life, getting to those turns in the road and being at one of those turns can be one of the scariest times. If you've been building a business for the past several years and you get to this place where being in that business every day, it no longer excites you. And you're the guy at the top, you're doing great. You've accomplished so much. There was a time and a place where it put fire in you to get there and to push and to push and to grow. But you come to that turn in the road, and you realize the purpose isn't there anymore. And you look around the corner and you see, oh, my long-term vision has changed. It's evolved. And so defining your purpose as that will to grow, that momentum that you have going with you.
But thank you so much for being with me for 100 episodes. I look forward to the next 100 episodes and really evolving this show to really help you as you continue to grow and look forward to the next chapter. So thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, and I will be back next week with another message.